Yo guys, what's going on? It's Dueling Unlocked here, and today we're going to try and find out what is the Duel Links meta currently. So we're going to be taking a look at the updated Duel Links meta tier list, what we agree, what we disagree with, some other decks I think you guys should look out for that could potentially be on the tier list, and which decks I think they're ranked too high, things like that as well. So, for starters, there are no tier 1 decks. This is mainly because of the power level. There are the huge decks getting nerfed of both being Predaplant and Lyreless. So those were the previous tier 1 decks. Now they're downgraded because of the ban list, which they both got heavy hits on. One deck that I believe they say would be the closest to tier 1 would be Infernable Floor, but half the tournaments aren't able to play Floor, so it's going to be hard to place Floor on the tier list until that happens. I got this comment from Giorgio down here. Saying that he thinks it's the closest deck to tier 1. Tournament data and expected to see if a big tournament is held tomorrow. What would you expect to see the most fair? Yeah, okay. Yeah, if I had to claim a state Infernal, but it makes no sense because of the tournament data, yes. So, we're gonna take a look at the tier 2 into the tier 3. So I think Ghost Trick at tier 2 is good. It did lose access to Needle Ceiling, and you guys can see it came in 2nd place. It's won a few tournaments as well. A lot of different techs are being run, like Divine Wrath, Bottomless, Ring of Destruction. You're going to be running Darkhold instead of Needle Ceiling. I think that's still in a pretty good spot. And then you can see the extra deck's pretty standard across the board. So yeah, there's that. Ghost Tricks I think is a solid tier 2 deck. Would make sense to me. If it had Needle Ceiling, I could see it potentially being tier 1, but without Needle, tier 2 sounds fair. Lyreless, I think Lyreless is actually still really good. I think tier 2 is probably a good spot for it. It's not letting me click it, but they did lose a lot of stuff on the ban list, but I think it's still going to perform fairly well in tournaments as well, as it has some it's just in a pretty annoying deck to out and everything. Let's see how it's been doing. 1st place, 2nd place, 2nd place, 2nd place. Yeah, it's still really, really good. I could potentially see it. Could I see it going up to tier 1? Let's see what a current Lyreless deck looks like. So this is a current Lyreless deck. 2nd place in the Quantum Dailies. I think it's probably a solid tier 2, yeah, that makes sense. Droll is an interesting card that a lot of people are running in KC Cup. So that is Birds. I think Predaplant tier 2 also seems solid, like I would agree with this. You can see here, top 8. We'll have to see, like you guys saw earlier, or you haven't seen it, but it has a few 2nd places here. A few people are choosing to run the Predaplanet over the Super Poly or the Hydra, which is interesting. So now you have to choose between all 3. We'll see what turns out to be the best along those. The Grand Prix is on a Wednesday, so you guys will be able to take a look at what tops that. Hopefully that provides more clear on the tier list, of course, or a clear view of the tier list. And then Star Seraphs, this deck was doing really well in the KC Cup, and it didn't really, the only hit it got is Needle Ceiling. So now they take Needle Ceiling out of the deck. They'll probably play Droplets over something instead. And I think the deck is in a solid position. I think it's probably, like, if it goes 2nd into Birds, it could struggle. But I guess that's what the Droplets are for, right? So just Droplet the Birds and win. So yeah, I think this is a solid tier 2. I would agree on all these decks being pretty even at the top. None of them, like, really could go tier 1. At the moment. Out of these, yeah, I don't even know. Like, it's hard to say. Like, it's pretty even. I would agree. Tier 3, we have Dark Fluid. Dark Fluid is pretty good. Top 100s, you can see here, Duan's already going in top 4 of the Grand Prix. Yeah, Dark Fluid, definitely a solid tier. It's gonna get buffed now that there's no Super Poly access to the Predaplants. So I think it definitely is tier 3 worthy. Floor, like I said, Infernable Floor is probably going to be the dominant floor deck coming out of this, which the deck is super expensive, but it's super good. I could see it going up. I think being like tied with Ghost Trick, Leerless, Predaplant, Star Seraph. Where was? Hold on, let me see my tier list before. It feels pretty close to like what I had on my tier list. Top 100 ban list. Where is my tier list? Oh, it's been a while since I've done it. Ah, here we go. Updated tier list. So, yeah, it's pretty similar to this, isn't it? Ghost Trick, Predaplant, Floor, Birds. Ghost Trick, Predaplant, Floor, Birds, potentially. Of course, I didn't have Saris like registered at all, but yeah, I should have seen it coming, I guess. We'll take a look at some other decks. Floor, Shaddoll tier 3 I can get behind. The one deck that I'm like not certain if I think it's tier 3 worthy is going to be Sharks. Like, out of these, I feel like the other decks might just be a tad bit stronger than them. I don't know if that's like a crazy idea. But yeah, I could see Shark being a little bit below this tier 3 standard. Sky Striker, probably not the most insane matchups, especially with Bird still around, being untargetable. But maybe you can do some things. Yeah, like I think while Floors in the meta, while Birds are in the meta, Strikers are going to struggle. But this deck could get buffed, so in the future, who knows? We have some leaked cards for it, but we'll see. One deck that I think let's read these comments here. Ghost Trick's lost Needle Sealing, which is definitely a big hit to the deck, but Predaplant's lost their Super Poly. Yep. Ghost Trick's from making Xyz play. And Leerless Star Seraph didn't really have a great Ghost Trick matchup before the ban list anyway. Deck that's having some issue breaking boards. The main purpose is now Dark Hole. The main card for this purpose is now Dark Hole. Can be hard to deal with, so yeah. One deck that like I think is definitely overlooked, which we'll get into, is going to be it. Ghost Trick benefits from many decks lacking inherent ways to deal with back row. Its favorable matchups against Leerless, Predaplant, which struggle to clear multiple back row. Star Seraph is also a relatively favorable matchup as Ghost Trick removal traps can deal with their monsters, and its hand traps can stop aggressive OTK pushes. However, Shaddoll and Sky Strikers can counter Ghost Trick if they avoid playing into Necro Valley. It's fair. So, I mean, the thing is, Strikers are gonna be... I don't know if you're gonna see too many Strikers, but I definitely could see Shaddolls. Not much has changed in Leerless post-ban list. The deck does the same thing, with 2 less Leerless. You cannot deal with an untargetable monster that can attack you directly, you're still gonna struggle against the deck. I 100% agree. Predaplant is a deck that got most on the ban list. They have to choose between the limit 1s. Talked about before. To keep a good turn 2 for the deck, for a better turn 1, the skill can add limit 3 traps, double Disruptor Dragon, plus rapid trigger for a fusion summon on the opponent's turn, and Leerless can summon blue to replace Leerless with simple Nightingale. Oh, they're gonna make this now? Oh my goodness. I didn't even think about that. Wow. This deck is performing pretty well. I can see it finding some ways to become the best deck once again, but it's not gonna be as dominant as it was in the previous format. Yep, Flash Fusion's also an attempted thing. Star Seraph's pretty good. OTK, yep, Shadow Impersonating Mirror is like insane in Star Seraph versus a lot of different Predaplants, Ghost Tricks. And they definitely can draw this pretty easily if they go first, because they can just draw like 50 cards, so... And you guys can see there's a lot of darks. I think it even stops like a lot of floors. Leo, OTK, yep. Alright, let's see. Dark Fluids, Forbidden Droplet. So yeah, the only thing that Dark Fluid struggles with is going to be Forbidden Droplet. Makes sense. Shaddolls are great into combo decks that lose to Winda. The deck is not good into Mystical Space Typhoon, Forbidden Droplet, and Abyss Dweller. Makes sense. Alright. Oh yeah, so here's why Infernoble is going to be pretty good. One of the biggest issues in Printable Flora previously was a weakness to Book of Eclipse and Forbidden Droplet. However, the deck can now end on a Herald of the Arclight, which can negate these cards unless the opponent sends a monster from the field for Droplet. It should have strong matchups against Ghost Trick, Sky Striker, and Shaddoll, and Gravity Axe Garl. Also, yeah, Gravity Axe Garl, or Garl, however you say it. This card could be a very big nuisance for Star Seers and both Ghost Tricks. Like, this deck, Infernals, definitely could be very, very strong. They might have to start running, like, some back row before this. Potentially. So, yeah. Some of the other decks that they didn't include on the tier list, which I think are going to be pretty high, which I definitely could see. I think this deck definitely is going to be tier 3. Which is going to be at least tier 3, which is Rockets. You can see it came in first place in the Meta Weekly. But, like, this deck has a solid matchup into a lot of different decks now. Like, I think the main reason why it wasn't super good for KC Cup is because of Super Poly. But now that Predaplants lose the access to Super Poly, I definitely could see this deck being tier 3. And I would have said this before the Meta Weekly even happened. Like, Triple Burst Dragon, this card versus Ghost Trick is actually really good too. Because it can, like, just, it goes crazy. It does piercing damage. A lot of the Ghost Tricks don't have that high defense. And then, once per turn, the damage stuff on a spell trap card or monster effect is activated, you can negate the activation. So, you can even negate things like that as well. And then the other deck that I think potentially could be, I don't know if I would quite put it tier 3, but I would definitely consider it pretty close. Now that it would be Cyber Dragons. I think this deck can do some things now with the overflow at limit 2. So now you can play this with a Cyberlit Fusion. You can play double overflow and one Cyber Dragon Infinity. So we'll have to see how Cyber Dragons and Rockets perform. This meta is, I don't even know. We're gonna have to see what decks come out on top. Predaplants, Ghost Trick, Lyralist, Star Seraph, Floor. We're just gonna see, chat. We're just gonna see. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.